name's Ted Jackins, and every time I open my mouth, I'm giving a TED talk.
Here kicking it with Ted. What's up, Ted?
Oh, not much, not much. Just another day in paradise, as it were.
That's Ted is from Paradise, North Carolina, just so everybody knows. Uh,
Yes, Paradise City. From a small town in North Carolina. Born and raised. I've lived all over the state. I seem to always end up back in my hometown. Uh, I am a published poet. I'm a musician. I am a filmmaker, just a maker of things. And if I have any kind of like artistic like point of view, it's that I try to dictate my view of the world through like the cracked lens of bipolar disorder. And I'm also non-binary and have started to write a lot of things from a queer perspective as well. So those things are always kind of running around, and music is always a big part of what I do. Music is magic, and yeah, yeah, that's me.
that's a like a real Renaissance kind of thing, you know.
I I told my therapist recently that you know the creative impulse is like the most healthy compulsive behavior I have.
Yeah,
And it is. It's compulsive. I make stuff because I feel like I have to. Like I just, I don't have a choice in the matter. I'd be doing it even if nobody was paying attention. Put it like that.
yeah. That's well, and I think obviously you and I both did it for years without much attention, you know.
Hmm.
Uh,
I always gravitated towards people that were like considered your favorite artist's favorite artist. I never wanted to be like the Rolling Stones. I wanted to be like Muddy Waters. I wanted to be the guy that like inspired somebody to pick up a guitar, or inspired somebody to write or make art. That's all it is to me. Money, acclaim. That'd be great. But I just, I like sharing what I do with the world, and I've had people uh, be inspired by what I do and have taken it up themselves, and that's just, you can't touch that feeling.
I'm Dan Denton, uh, currently living in Ohio, but I travel a lot and I try to go somewhere west and warm in the winter. Uh, Former UAW auto worker, former UAW chief steward, blah blah blah. Former voted the best writer in Toledo at one point, multi novelist, and I do collage art. I don't. I love music, and I have a guitar, and I want to dabble around with it more, but I'm not like a musician. Like, let's be clear, you know. I'm only good at playing the radio, you know. But I do not have any acclaim. I've decided if I could just make like $2,500 a month as a writer, that's just enough money to travel in a van and do mostly what I want most of the time, and that's all I need. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm good. You know, who cares if I ever get famous? That's all I need. You know.
I don't want to live in a fucking castle. It'd be nice to swirl enough away to have like the writer's cabin up in the mountains that I could get away to, or a house at the beach, or something. Like uh, if I could just survive on it, that that's well enough for me.
Yeah. By the way, when you introduced yourself, you mentioned your mental health, right?
I am bipolar. I was formally diagnosed in like when I was 40. I think was when they finally narrowed it down, and that came actually at my urging because I read a book called Touched by Fire, which is about bipolar disorder and the autistic temperament, which you should read. Uh,
Write it
it,
down.
yeah, I will. In it, there were very in-depth descriptions of bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. When I read the description of bipolar 2, I was like, oh my god, that's me. And talked to my therapist about it. She immediately agreed and set about testing me, and came back very much right on the money. And my mental health, I've been in the mental health system in one form or another since I was 17 years old. I'm 43 now. So it is a deeply important part of who I am, artistically and personally. You know,
Do you have any other diagnoses besides bipolar 2?
uh, working on trying to get into a clinic to be diagnosed or screened for ADHD and autism, because I have a daughter who is autistic, and if a child is, then usually one or both parents are as well. And it's yet again, like, the more I read about the disorder, the more I'm like, that sounds very much. I mean, I have meltdowns. I have, just the whole brain fog. You know, getting stuck trying to do things. Just all of it.
Yeah. I mentioned I wanted to bring that up because Ted. So I think the things that have really connected Ted and I as friends are mental health, uh, our artistic and creativity loves, and Ted also has spent a lot of time in blue collar working class environments,
Yeah.
which is these are all things that we have in common. Uh, I just for the record, in bipolar 2 also. I didn't get diagnosed that until I was in my mid 30s. Uh, Bipolar 2 with PTSD. By the way, the American medical healthcare system does not recognize complex PTSD as a diagnosis yet. The DSM, it's in there, but it's not recognized as by the AMA or whatever. So I have just PTSD, even though there are complex and many, many instances of trauma in my life. And I'm also ADHD and have generalized anxiety disorder. That was the other one. There's so many of them, I couldn't remember the last one. Shit.
It's starting to happen to me. Like, I start naming them off, and I'll always forget one. Same with, like, my medication. I always forget at least one when I'm listing them.
Yeah. Coming Friday, November 7th and Saturday, November 8th to Toledo, Ohio. Brought to you by the Literary Underground. Hosted at the Switchboard and Culture Clash Records. Ted mentioned they've been in um, mental health systems since they were 17. And I talked to my first counselor at school when I was in third grade. And I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional home and environment and in the projects and dirt and poverty and, whatever. I had a pretty tough childhood. But I talked to a counselor for the first time in like third grade. And then I had to do some like anger management and therapy as a teenager. So I've pretty much been in some form or other medical field and or addiction recovery since I was a teenager. Same, and I'm 46 now. California sober 19 years. Well,
Yeah, and I'm sober, coming up on 16 years. Callie's sober. for the last 8, I guess, give or take.
Same. I was, well, I was completely, I was just talking, I was white knuckle, I call it. So I did all the things I was supposed to do in recovery. And I stayed sober, but uh, for years they took away the barbiturates. I was on Ativan and Xanax for years for my mental health and my anxiety. In the first 8 years I was sober, I didn't, or first couple of years I didn't have that. And then when they legalized marijuana in my state, in Ohio, my therapist, my sponsor, and all of these people, my doctor were like, dude, with your chronic pain and it was like a lifesaver. Matter of fact, I tell people I went from 4 Ativan a day to 4 Ativan a year, all because of cannabis, you
Yeah.
know,
Mhm.
and it's way safer for my physical chronic pain than most prescriptions for chronic
Mhm.
pain, which I'm leery of a lot of those anyway because of my addiction history.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And my wife has a lot of body pain that she's dealing with right now, and they've got her on a muscle relaxer, but it's thankfully a non-narcotic kind of muscle relaxer of some sort. Because the same thing, her mom was an alcoholic, her dad had some issues, so she doesn't want to roll those dice. And it's the same for me. If something were to happen to me, I had to end up on like morphine or something like that. God knows.
Yeah. And I've had surgeries and stuff. I had to be like prescribed opiates, and that's not that I'm not afraid of them. If I need them, I need them. Like I'm not like I know some people, and and that's one thing. This is kind of my theory. I don't know. This is something that'd be a good question, a topic to bring up to you, Ted. I feel like mental health treatment, recovery, these kind of things aren't creativity even. They're not like black and white defined things.
Uh,
Like I have learned and I've watched in all the years, 19 years of recovery, not every path is the same for everybody that recovers. Not
exactly.
every, we're both bipolar too, but our treatment isn't always the same. Like the things that work for, and uh, so, don't just go out and smoke pot, don't, what I mean? I always throw that out there.
Yeah, I always say just because something worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
I kind of feel like religion's a little like that too. I don't want to get like too, controversial right from rip, but
Yeah, yeah.
it,
I know people that have turned to the church and it did a world of good for them, and I know other people that went full tilt MAGA. It just it depends on the person, really. It's a personality type, I think. And survivor's instinct. I think goes a long way with that. Which when I tell therapists about a lot of the things I've been through, they're like, "Man, you've got crazy survivor's instinct." I'm like, "Shit, man, I think it was just luck."
probably, yeah. Like
Hey, I was the same age when I got sober, and it's the same thing. They're just,
see, I
uh,
think that's like the artist thing. If you're an addict with mental health issues and an artist, you either check out at 27, like some of our heroes have, or you get sober. There's no in between.
well, when you look at something like bipolar disorder, it peaks and valleys and throughout your life, and one of the peaks is usually your mid to late 20s. So it would only make sense that you and I would bottom out at roughly the same age. And I know a lot of people like that talk about that period of time in their life, and they say it was, that they don't know how they got through it, and some of them don't, man. You
Yeah,
know,
I told somebody once I got sober at 27. You too. Getting sober young, especially right before I got sober, like right in the middle of the opioid crisis, and
yeah.
like watching other young people not make it.
Mhm.
Like that. Man, what kind of creative projects are you working on right now?
Right now, I am waiting to hear back from a publisher on a new chapbook. That's going to be like probably next year, I would say. They all I know right now is that they're doing like a big drop of a bunch of different chaps at the same time. So I'll know, when that comes to pass. I released two records within the last month. One was with the artist Ryan Jetton, who's an artist and musician from Alabama, and the other one is solo work, and it's all improvised, like guitar noise, like stuff. Um, and I've been making a lot of collage and just, generally working on one thing or another, but nothing like, I don't have like a major project at the moment.
Do you do something creative pretty much every day?
I try to. It doesn't always come to pass, but, I just, I try to make time for it, you know, um, in the evenings, especially, you know, because that's usually when I get kind of in my head. So to pull myself out, I'll throw myself into a project.
Yeah. Uh, Great hanging out with you, Ted.
You too.
Friends, are you like me, wondering exactly where Sasquatch has been lately? Let me tell you. Here at Just Another Way to Waste 60 Minutes, you will get a monthly Sasquatch sighting report. Now, I want you to know this is only official sightings. We don't deal with the random people drunk out in the woods, doing mushrooms or whatever. Whoever knows what everybody's doing out in the woods out there. We don't deal with those just random, oh, I saw Bigfoot. No, these are only sightings that have been investigated and approved, made believable by the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. Here we go. Two credible sightings from the month of August. From iHeartRadio News, Oklahoma motorist reports seeing possible Sasquatch crossing river. A motorist crossing a bridge in Oklahoma was stunned when he looked down at the river below and spotted what appeared to be a Sasquatch. The intriguing sighting, detailed in a report to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, occurred on August 4th as witness Jeff Powers was driving along the highway. At a point where the road turns into a bridge over the Canadian River, he gazed over at the water and noticed a very large black figure walking across the river. There you go. And just outside of Oklahoma City. All right, here we go. Second report. From the Northeast Explorer in Maine. According to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. See, I told you, this is not just any bunk random guy said, National Enquirer bullshit. This is real life. Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, a group that tracks reported Sasquatch encounters throughout the country. A couple reported seeing a Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, close to Grafton Notch State Park near Newry, Maine on August 2nd. According to the woman who reported the sighting, she and her husband had spent the day hiking and visiting waterfalls in the area. As they were leaving Steep Falls Preserve near Grafton Notch State Park at around 1:20 p.m., she said a large brown biped came out of the woods and ran across the street. It was pretty large, all brown and moving very quickly, she stated in the report. One thing of note is the way it carried its arms almost behind it as it ran across, which seemed odd and unhuman-like. There you go, folks. If you're in Maine or out near Oklahoma City in Oklahoma, keep an eye out. Sasquatch has been sighted in those areas. And tune in next month. We will keep track. If he's seen anywhere else, we'll let you know. Thanks for joining.
One time in high school, I was watching this movie called Swing Kids that came out in the early 90s, and I'm really enjoying it. It's these kids like pre World War II Europe. They're just dancing and having a good time listening to swing jazz music, and like the soundtrack was really awesome. And they're just living their best life, being young, and all that stuff. And then the fucking Nazis show up and ruin everything. Fucking Nazis, man.
Hey everybody, I'm Dan.
I'm Ted, and this
I'm
is
I'm Mike.
this is Mike Long, probably my longest friendship. He is an artist and musician, originally from Statesville, North Carolina, now based in High Point, North Carolina. He had a project called Fly Homer Fly. Now he records under the name Junking. In that time that we've known each other, he's been in multiple bands, some with myself included. And we're really excited to have him be our first guest on the debut thingamabob.
Yeah,
Thank you.
podcast version point two or whatever.
Yeah, second try.
Welcome to the show, Mike.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Ted gave me is that Isla in the background I just missed?
Yeah, she just walked through.
Uh, so
Hey,
yeah,
Isla.
you sent me your man camp, and I checked out a little bit of like I just saw like the first album was kind of ambient kind of music
Mm-hmm.
stuff, so pretty cool. That's the kind of
Yeah.
stuff I look forward to write to when I'm
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah, it's kind of it's the junking thing is kind of how I conceived sort of what I wanted to do is just sort of play with it a little bit more, whereas the Fly Homer Fly stuff was more just kind of like rock and roll sort of stuff, and the junking stuff was just I originally thought was just going to be just this drone stuff, but I decided I want to just do whatever with it, no matter what that is. So some of it's ambient, some of it's just whatever. I don't know. I'm really bad at describing my own music, so
It it feels more spontaneous
hmm
than Fly Homer Fly, and I think that's, I've liked all the stuff that you've done, but it's weird that we kind of arrived at the same place because the Mount Morn stuff for me it's all about spontaneity.
hmm
Just to the point where I'm not even really singing anymore. It's more like letting the tape roll, and what comes out comes out. So
yeah.
I feel like your process changed. Like, what does your process look like now versus what it looked like with Fly Home or Fly or some of the other things that you did?
Well, with Fly Home or Fly, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted to do. Like I had these songs that were more or less finished. Maybe the lyrics I had to change a little bit, but they had a pretty good structure to them, and I would just like put them together and put them out. And I had like hundreds of these, and but with junking, I was just like I kind of did all that. And now I just kind of want to, again, just be more spontaneous with it and just see what happens and let it flow out and let it kind of just take shape over time. And just like I'll start out with like this little idea, like this little sample or this little drum beat or something. Like what comes out of this, and just let it sit there and for like a few days or something, and then come back to it in my digital workstation or whatever, and then just lay something on top of it that I think sounds cool or something, and then just kind of let it build over time, and maybe it'll become something, maybe it won't. So that's kind of, it's more spontaneous, more, I hate using this word, but experimental, over time.
Yeah, I fall back on the experimental tag because I don't really know what else to call it.
Yeah, I don't know any other word to use really.
Junking feels very cinematic in the way that it's presented. I know you're a big film buff, so are there like films or soundtracks that have kind of influenced your approach to sound?
Um, Nothing specifically, but I mean, I definitely uh, there's a lot of Probably a more recent example. I saw what is it, Tetsuo the Iron Man? Uh,
Dude, yes.
yeah, and I love the sound in that movie, and
Yeah.
it's a short movie, but I mean it's all about sound in that thing, and like I guess I that sort of imprints itself on me whether I want it to or not, and like that's just sort of comes out whether I without meaning to, and like there's also like stuff like I'm really into like the more kind of maximalist uh like the Back to the Future theme has always been like a really big thing with
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Yeah, even to this day when I'm like driving somewhere and I'm like late or something like that, I get the duh 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 like in my head. And so it's kind of like a mix between that sort of dissonant thing and that very maximalist cinematic thing that is very attractive to me. That just any kind of movie that does that, it just imprints itself on me and it comes out in one form or another.
Yeah, I actually have a Blu-ray box set of the director that did Tetsuo. It's like his
Hmm.
first 5 films, including the Tetsuo Part Two, which is basically just they kind of did the Evil Dead 2 thing, where they basically remade the movie with more money. Um, uh, but yeah, the sound design in that movie is crazy. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I was just like, I was just watching it like, this is like you really don't even need more money for it. It's just
no,
so amazing to watch.
yeah. I for any kids who have not seen that movie, I do not suggest watching it with any kind of substances in your system because it's a trip just on its own. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
well, I know you work a lot in visual art as well. Would you say that your visual art has influenced the way that you approach music in any kind of way?
Sure. Probably because my visual art, which I haven't really done in a long time, to be honest, but my visual art is, it's abstract, expressionist stuff, but maybe even a little collagey. But it, it's sort of just like this like nebulous um, mess in that sort of like there's no real theme or there's no real like linear pattern to any of it. There's no story that like I started here and ended here or anything like that going on in any piece. So there's no like, this is like, you know, so and so crossing the Potomac or anything like that. But but like um it's just like I like capturing like kind of like singular or more complicated emotions or whatever that is, and sometimes I don't even know what that is. But and that just sort of comes out. That's the same way I approach music too. I don't really think of like this is this is like this song is about this or this song is about this or I really want to capture the essence of you know the French Revolution or whatever in this song. Like I want to like just make something that just spills out, and however it comes out is what it is. And yeah, I don't know any other way to explain it than that. It's just abstract, um, sort of gobbledygook, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Leaving evidence. And I will cut the sound out of it, probably, unless we say something really super funny. No. That's what she said. Oh, God. got Vaseline. I'm like, they're gonna think I'm on coke. But bleaching the actual skin and asshole, skin around it. It was just hard to be turned on when you're staring at leftovers from KFC.
Oh, Lord. I agree. I don't know how any type of creative could support AI.
To listen to music. I'm a music nerd. Shit about making it, right? But if you look back to like classical music, like Mozart and those motherfuckers, like they were like using concertos to like make a like tell a story, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about like using a song to like make it feel like the French Revolution or like the interpret. And I'm not saying like that's the same as Mozart, but isn't that kind of what music does a little bit? Like tell a story or like whether it's
Well,
accidental or not, or you know what I mean?
well, it's like something like 1812 Overture, for example. That's very much about what it says it is. And everything that happens in that piece of music is talking about, what it says it is. But I actually love that piece for some reason. I don't know why. But like I think this is really cliche, but I mean, I think it really just comes down to like what your interpretation of it is. Because when I listen to the 1812 Overture, like I don't think I sound so corny, but I don't think like war or anything like like that. I it just sounds like just triumphant in and of itself. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be about war or about like one side winning over another side, or it could just be about getting through the day or something like that for me. I mean, that's
Since I haven't been singing and I've been doing more instrumental music, it's become kind of a challenge of like how can I paint a picture or tell a story without words getting away. I kind of reached that point because I realized that I was saying so much with my poetry that I didn't really, and I never really felt comfortable in front of the mic completely. So it just, yeah, it's like you said, it's like trying to put like a, if not a story, then like some kind of feeling. You know, it's that elusive thing that you hear every musician talk about. Like there's notes, there's melodies, but there's feel. And it's this thing every time I put a guitar or whatever in my hands and I hit record of like, what can I say with just this instrumentation?
Yeah. And the fun thing about that is that it goes through stages. I've noticed like I'll record like a guitar thing. I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. And then like I'll come back to it later and throw on like, say, I don't know, like a little keyboard melody. And I'm like, I ruined it. It's trash now. So, but then I'll come back to it later and I'll throw an effect on the keyboard. I'm like, oh, it's good again. So, I like that whole process of just like tearing it down and bringing it back up again, and that whole thing. That's fun.
Yeah, I kind of turned into Alex Chilton. Like they talk about when he was recording Big Stars 3 that he would like. They talked about like what a great pop songwriter he was, but he would do things like bring in this beautiful pop song, but then decide that the drums needed to be somebody bouncing a basketball.
Yeah. Right, right, right.
It's just like creating something really beautiful and then kind of destroying it on
Hmm.
purpose in a way. Um, I love that like juxtaposition of beautiful and ugly, and
Yeah.
I feel like the junking stuff, like the word I've used to describe like what you're doing, at least like the sound wise, is it's like unsettling, but I mean that as a compliment.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of how I appreciate art too. Like the kind of
Yeah,
stuff that moves me is stuff that is disturbing but beautiful. So,
yeah, yeah. Like
yeah.
it's it's interesting to put something out there that can make someone feel like almost uncomfortable in a
Hmm.
way, because it's still feeling something. It's still
Yeah.
getting a reaction, and that's I feel like every kind of art, that's what you're doing in the end, is trying to get some kind of reaction out of the
Yeah.
audience, out of
I'm
and
I'm just trying to get something out of me too. Like, because I mean, you can make a piece of art and it or a piece of music or whatever, and just be like, why the hell did I make this? Like, this is like so boring. And and it's like then you got to try and find like why did I even start to do this to begin with? And then you have to try and figure it out all over again, which is also fun, but
yeah,
also annoying, but but fun.
it's all about discovery. I find.
Hmm.
I'm, you were talking about making like putting that on a guitar thing and really liking it, and then adding something to it, and then being like, oh, I broke it. Like,
Yeah.
I've uh, I've had instances where I've written things down in notebooks and got disgusted because I was just like, this is such a stupid line. Like, what am I doing? And then 6 months, 5 years, even, I've come
Yeah.
across stuff in notebooks and I'll read it and I'll be like, oh, this is really good. And it fits perfectly in what I'm working on in that moment. Um,
100%.
yeah, I mean, hell, there have been lines that it took me like 20 years to find a home for. And same
Hmm.
thing with like music. I've had riffs, that, I've been recycling a lot of music from like old tapes and stuff that I've found here recently, and
Hmm.
it's, it's something my grandma once told me. She said, "Write everything down and never throw anything out." And by God, I've done that.
Yeah, that's sort of my personal philosophy as well. I'm like, even if it's even if it's just like a little okay, if there's like some kind of potential out there that you feel like that you can do something with it, that keep it. Just record it somewhere. You can do something with it, I promise. Recently, actually, I was visiting family in Texas, and we were at a like an Airbnb type situation, and they had this washing machine that was making this like really weird sound, and I was just like, I'm like, that's really cool. And so I just like took my phone, like I have like a little sound recorder thing on my phone, and I just like recorded that. And I haven't used it yet, but I mean, like, this is going to be really cool. And like, I'm looking at my brother-in-law and everything, and I'm just like, no, you don't get it. This is going to be great.
You and Ted mentioned, by the way, we haven't said this on the recording. You and Ted met 28 years ago when you were teenagers, and you guys
Hmm.
kind of bonded over your shared love of like different music. But were you playing music at that age, or
Um, I've really been into music ever since I was a kid, but like, I got really serious about it probably Um, in the early teens, like I started playing guitar when I was like 12 or 13. I was taking guitar lessons from this guy in Statesville who was like a country and western guy. Uh, and I sort of just picked up basic things from that. And the rest I kind of learned through like guitar magazines and stuff like that. Like, cause they'd have like tablature and stuff like that in guitar magazines back in the day. So I would just kind of look through that and say like, oh, that's how you play that. and just sort of develop my own thing based on that and on those exercises. So, but then, like, with discovering music of my own, like, it started with Nirvana, and then, like, Nirvana was really good about name dropping bands that they liked, and of course, you would read interviews with them and see interviews on TV, and they would uh, you would check out the bands that they would mention, and then you would check out the bands that those bands would mention, and down all through the line. And then, of course, you would end up with this plethora of music that you had discovered through all these different resources. And also, thank God for MTV's 120 minutes back in the day. Represent. So, but yeah, that's kind of how that was sort of my musical education, and Ted was a huge musical education for me as well. He introduced me, or they introduced me to a lot of different kinds of music that I hadn't heard at the time too. So,
Yeah, me and Mike, I think, hit it off because my musical education was very similar. I had the advent of my older brother turning me on to stuff. He was turning me on to like older, like the band and Bob Dylan, and he had me listening to jazz and stuff like that and Frank Zappa. So I was like getting that, but then I was like really into Nirvana, and like you said, like the bands that they would mention, I would go and check them out and just keep digging.
yeah.
And man, I kind of miss those days where there was like mystery to it. Like you had to like go to a record store and really dig and hope that you found that these bands that you just had a name in your head.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, you just Shazam the shit or whatever and have it within 5 minutes and you know everything about them. But
Do you remember, like, in like the magazines and stuff, like Alternative Press, they would sometimes come with samplers, CDs?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's how I discovered some things too, weirdly enough. I mean, a lot of it was total garbage, but like some of it was really good.
Yeah, like CMJ magazine was really good.
Yeah.
Samplers, Alternative Press, like you said. Flip Side, which was like a punk zine, would put out a sampler like once a year.
Yep.
And I found a lot of stuff through that. Maximum Rock and Roll. I mean, we're both kind of kids of like the zine era. You would buy like little paper fold and staple zines and read about bands that way. And I guess nowadays it's like the music blogs have kind of taken that over. But yeah. Alternative Nation on MTV was also a good one for, I would pretty much listen to anything that Kennedy told me to.
Yeah, and Statesville had like a few zines. Like they had like a few publishers, like not a lot, but or at least around the time when I was actually paying attention to that sort of thing. There was a few. I remember that's actually how I got into like emo core kind of stuff around the time that like Midwest emo was sort of popping off. And there was like I can't remember. I wish I could remember this guy's name, but there was a guy that used to hang around downtown Statesville that I sort of became friends with, that was like super into like that emo stuff. That I think he was maybe involved with somebody. Oh God, I wish I could remember his name, but I think he was involved with somebody who made like a zine, and I found out about a lot of stuff through that, and. Statesville, there was a time when like your little local, scene was like, it was a little resource for you. And that's sort of gone now. And, for better or worse, whatever, but it's, that was a really precious thing, I think.
For me, that's how I've like that's the most valuable resource for me over the years to like find the cool bands or find the cool documentaries or books is you hang out with the other artists somewhere. You
Mhm.
just,
Yeah, community is such an important thing with any kind of with any art, I think, because I mean that's how any kind of progress or anything is made because you have to have like inroads and networking and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, you think about like somebody like Henry Miller. You know, he had all the expatriate artists
mhm.
who met in Paris. You know, at the same time after World War I, I think, and
Yeah,
you know, I think the fact that they had each other led to a lot of books like Tropic of Cancer and paintings and things like that. I mean, like the whole Lost Generation, and yeah, community is everything.
yeah, it is.
before we go, I'm going to circle back to something I thought was kind of funny, Mike, that you said. Uh, you were talking about the 1812 overture. And we're talking about how it could just be like getting through a day or something, right?
Hmm.
So what you're trying to say basically is the 1812 overture is like the original Eye of the Tiger, right?
Yeah, sure.
Like it's
That's
just
it.
a pump you up song that gets you, through the obstacle.
I
Yeah,
mean,
just
I can kind of see it, honestly.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you said that, I was like, man, you're right. That's kind of like the classic version of Eye of the Tiger.
If they had had like ringtones back in the day and like fucking your personalized like wake up call, yeah, War of 1812 like overture would have been somebody's like wake up call.
Yeah.
Actually,
I,
I'm gonna do that.
yeah, I could get down with that. I could.
Thanks for joining us. Uh,
My pleasure.
Good evening, everyone. This is your trusty correspondent, newsman Dan, giving you the monthly report from the gas station down on the corner next to you. I spoke to the morning coffee lady, Wanda, and to the night shift clerk, Gerald, and this is what they told me. Wanda says that the corporate office made a new coffee flavor, and it's on special right now. Come try a nice hot cup of pumpkin unicorn pea. It's all the rage. Wanda also says that the most interesting thing that happened last month was Becky Johnson was the lucky winner that found the golden French tickler in the bathroom novelty machine. She wins a box of Trojans, a bag of chocolate, and a $5 rose from the 5-gallon bucket up by the cash register. Gerald says that on the night shift, a Friday a week or two back, that an Elvis impersonator stopped in around 1:30 in the morning. Gerald says the would-be Elvis got $20 in gas and a box of Cracker Jacks. And get this, he paid with cash. Gerald says that when he said thank you very much, it was like being in front of the king himself. Night clerk Gerald also reports that the number one thing stolen on the night shift are payday candy bars, and this reporter thinks that speaks for itself. Wanda, the morning coffee lady, says the number one stolen item during the day is the key to the bathroom around back. She says if you got it, bring the dang thing back. Jesus fuck, it's chained to an orange barrel. It's not like you forgot it in your pocket. All right, now, it's time for the monthly specials from the gas station down at the corner near you. The big old jug fountain pops are on sale for 99 cents. And the gas station on the corner near you is the only gas station around with 9 types of Mountain Dew on tap. Pineapple pizza sticks are $2 a piece this month only, or buy 2 for $4. Your choice. And this month only, the fine wine, the bottles that had the gold twist-off caps, the good stuff, they're a true sugar sally of a deal for just $6.99 a bottle. Last week's sushi is this week's half-off bargain. The wasabi sauce is 99 cents extra. Finally, the entire staff from the gas station on the corner near you has asked me to tell you to please quit yelling at the cashiers. They're living paycheck to pawn shop just like all the rest of us, and they do not have any say on the rising prices of Little Debbie snack cakes, and they especially wanted me to remind you, Alfred, you know who you are. And there you have it. That's the monthly report from the gas station down on the corner near you. I am your trusty news correspondent, Dan. from Channel 62 News. Coming in the month of September from Luchador Press. Writer Dan Denton's first ever poetry collection. Stay tuned for details.
I had to give blood today, and my nurse was trying to make sure that I stayed calm, so she was like, just breathe normal. So I started hyperventilating.
Hey, Ted, what have you been listening to lately?
I'm glad you asked. I've got a couple of things here. So some of it is new releases, some of it is stuff that I'm just like getting around to. We got cassettes, we got Off, Free LSD, which is hardcore punk mixed with elements of psychedelic music and free jazz. Thing I love about this is that it's actually tied into a movie also called Free LSD that is a B movie horror film starring the band. So check those out. We got, the movie is really, really fun.
Is it like on Tubi or Netflix or?
I think it's on Prime, or it was when I watched it.
Okay. I might want to check that out.
Yeah, it's, if you grew up watching 80s like VHS, just cheesy monster movies, like it's definitely a good throwback to that. Up next, we got Hot Snakes, Suicide Invoice, great kind of post-hardcore alternative rock, just the guitar playing and Fred's voice. It's just really blistering, straight ahead kind of rock and roll stuff.
You're holding up cassette tapes.
Yes,
I know you have records. Do you have a CD player also?
I do.
What format of those three do you listen to the most?
Lately, I've been listening to tapes a lot. I don't know what that is. I think it's the fact that like tapes are starting to come back, and you can get them for usually half the price of what you would pay for a CD or a record. Like they're usually between $5 to $10. And I've been hitting a lot of like record stores have been having like their summer like 4th of July sale and stuff like that. So I've been hitting pay dirt on cassettes, a lot of punk stuff. Like I've got an SSD, Social System Decontrol record to check out, and MJ Linderman. He's a guy from North Carolina actually who's really, really good, kind of like alt country, slacker rock kind of stuff. But yeah, tapes of they're an easy format to come by. I got a Walkman and a tape deck during the pandemic and kind of started easing back into it. So yeah, it's been very tape heavy here lately.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And actually, moving on to CDs, you asked that question just at the right time.
That was almost like a home run. I didn't even plan that.
Right? Syncopation, man. We got here's the banner. This is an album called Graying. They're kind of like metallic hardcore punk, but they've got black metal influences and goth and industrial kind of things going on. It's a really angry, aggressive record at times, but then there are just these moments where it's like synthesizers and stuff like that come in that are like downright beautiful in like this dark, kind of unsettling sort of way. I really like that record a lot. I think it came out about 10 years ago, so there's like a 10-year anniversary like special edition, which this is the older edition. The special edition's kind of expensive. So let's see. Hit pay dirt. You're gonna like these. I hit pay dirt at the Ben store, like 2 blocks from my house. We got Spiritual Jazz Volume 14. This is private press stuff. This is stuff that was never actually in stores. They just recorded it to like give out at gigs and stuff. The opening track, Ernie Clark, By the Grace of God I Am. I love that. It's just piano, upright bass, and drums, and there's just something really haunting about it that I really, really dig. I've been listening to that one a lot. And then, of course, Sun Ra seems to be a theme with us. This is Sound of Joy. This is like early stuff before he switched to synthesizers. It's still playing like the upright or the piano and a very large band, kind of like big band jazz kind of thing. It's really, really good. Really, was psyched to find that for like $1.
Ted and I have talked a lot about this. Is kind of what fostered the idea of me and Ted doing this kind of. Well, I mean, we had talked about doing some stuff before, and Ted was a guest on my old podcast. But talking about Sun Ra, and I got to ask you, Ted. I watched the movie, his movie again recently. I can't remember the name of it.
There's a couple. There's the documentary, and then there's the like movie that he made, like Space is the Place.
That one, Space is the Place. So I watched that movie.
Uh,
I have rarely, maybe upon, I have traveled to 41 states. I've been everywhere nearly. I have maybe seen a handful of times anybody that dressed as eccentrically as Sun Ra. And I was thinking, this is what I want to ask you. I think this is a difference between me and a lot of normal people. Is if I would have saw Sun Ra on the street, I would have immediately tried to find a reason to talk to that dude.
yeah, I'm the same way.
This guy, you know?
I'm going to be like, this guy knows what's up. Going back to, the last time I was wearing my Drive-By Truckers shirt. Well, Patterson Hood of the Truckers just at the beginning of the year released this. This is called Exploding Trees and Airplane Screams, and it is fucking amazing. It's got like his country rock kind of thing, but he's brought in like a lot of really cinematic kind of production flourishes. There's a lot of bass clarinet is used and flute, and like a bunch of other woodwind instruments are used pretty heavily, string sections, backing vocals. There's a lot of cool like duets with Lydia Lovelace, Waxahachie's on this, and the band Wednesday, who are from North Carolina. This is a great record. Sharp Pens. This is Radio DDR. What?
Cassette tape, CD, record.
Yeah. I'm covering all the bases, man. This is like
you to answer my question. Go ahead.
This is a good like throwback like 90s indie rock kind of stuff, but made in the year of our Lord 2025. The kid behind this record, I actually had like a weird connection with, because a couple of years back, actually towards the end of the pandemic, I ordered a bunch of zines. And one of the zines that I got is a zine called Hallo Gallo, which I got because it's named after a song by this German psychedelic band that I like called Neu. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that song. I'll check out the zine. The zine is made by the guy who made this record, and he's also in a band called Lifeguard that are really good, that just put out a new record. But it's got like that 90s like warm analog lo-fi kind of guitar rock kind of thing.
Cool.
And finally, we got the new Home is Where hunting season. This is like kind of emo sort of stuff, but it's mixed in with alternative country. There's like a lot of pedal steel all over this. I'm going to see them in October with my wife. I'm really excited. It's the first concert I've seen in like a year, and pretty pumped about that. So
Yeah.
It looks like now we have a light tube skateboard. I mean, hell, we did a show at a skate park. Here we go. And here I am.
What's Will
doing everything I can, believing that I am a Superman.
Taking a lot of risk to be able to use that skateboard in a gnarly grinder of a move.
That was an ollie?
It was an ollie.
You and I are both writers. When you write or do like your artwork, what kind of music do you listen to?
I mix it up. I go through phases, as my wife likes to point out all the time, where like I'm really into this genre, really into that. Like right now, I'm really eclectic. My interest seems to be pulled in the direction of comic books. I've been reading a lot of comics, but we'll get to that shortly. But I'm kind of like you said, that you have to have like instrumental music. That is a big one for me. Like I can't really listen to hip hop if I'm writing, but if I'm making art, I can listen to whatever. Like the words don't distract me, and I put a lot of text in the art that I do, and sometimes I'll cop a line or two like that stands out to me from the music I'm listening to, and maybe put it into the piece somewhere, which is a trick I learned from Basquiat. But when it comes to writing, a lot of jazz, dub reggae has been an obsession of mine the last couple of years. Just anything really kind of spacey and almost ambient in a way, I guess. Just it has to put me like into a certain frame of mind to kind of get there. I always say I have to kind of hypnotize myself.
I definitely, when I get really deep into writing something, I prefer jazz or ambient music without words.
Mm-hmm.
Because I kind of need that just kind of background beautiful noise. Does that make sense? To kind of block out my.
Yeah.
And I've written to mostly the jazz record I have written to the most by far. And I was just thinking today, I bet I have spent probably 2,000 or 3,000 hours of my life listening to John Coltrane's Blue Train.
That's a good one.
I think it's one of the finest, most perfect examples of art of any John. It's like one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen. So a lot of times I'll put that on repeat if I'm really working hard. Because if I get like into working on a story, I'll get lost for an hour or two. I'll get up, blah blah blah, but I lose track of time. So I just leave that on repeat so I can leave myself. I don't have to pay attention to time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll make playlists that are like several hours long. That's just different stuff to get like different energies. I have a novella that I need to get out and kind of workshop a little bit and fix up, but I was discovering a lot of music while I was writing it, and I actually broke my rule of no lyrics because I found this artist, Rosalia, who I believe is, I'm probably going to get this wrong, she's definitely South American. So all the lyrics are mostly in Spanish, and it's very high energy. Like there's reggaeton influences on like pop music, like radio pop, dance pop kind of, but like really abstract beats. And the fact that I don't speak a lick of Spanish other than what I picked up in factories, like it kind of blurs the same way like instrumental music does.
I have been I've been watching live concerts a lot. I watch
Oh,
live concerts on YouTube.
mhm.
It's like I watch live concerts on YouTube and listen to music at 100 to 1 hour ratio to television watching. So,
Hey,
by the way, anybody watching this podcast or listening, if you have a recommendation for a live concert that's one of the favorite of yours on YouTube, send it to me. I will watch it. I have watched everything from Britney Spears to the Beatles to whatever. Like it don't matter. I'll watch it. I watched Andrew Bocelli. I probably butchered it. The opera singer. I think.
oh yeah. My mom was a huge fan.
Yeah, I watched a live concert of his the other night while I was working on collage, and it was beautiful. I don't like opera, but it's beautiful. But I was going to say that one of my new favorite concert finds on YouTube is a 1970 concert from Massachusetts of Carlos Santana.
Ooh,
And
okay.
I've listened to Santana my whole life.
Oh
And
yeah.
I've watched a lot of like concert footage of him like in his older years.
Uh huh.
But if you can find Santana live footage of his younger days, he's a bad motherfucker, man.
Yeah,
Ooh.
the Woodstock performance of Soul Sacrifice is still like in my top five favorite like live moments. And the fact that he was peaking on acid when he performed that, he said that his guitar was a snake that he felt like he was having to kill. You know, and I just loved that.
Uh, Let me tell you about a couple things I've read lately.
Okay.
Uh, so I didn't bring books to like prepared to show you on camera because I am not nearly as organized as you are, Ted, which is one of the reasons why I need a podcast partner like you that knows what they're doing in life, knows what day it is most of the time. Uh,
Don't ruin my reputation there.
Here's a couple of recommendations, a couple of books I've been reading. First of all, my therapist recommended this, and almost every time a good therapist recommends a book, I read it.
Oh yeah.
It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's like the most famous newer book about trauma. It's sold millions of copies, and it's a comprehensive study from like the early 80s till now of PTSD and what it does to our brain and our body.
Oh
So I'm
wow.
just finishing up the first half of the book that's all about the effects it has on the brain. And I'm really looking forward to getting to the part about the effects it has on our body. I'm learning one of the most fascinating things I've learned from this book that blew my mind. And I know you struggle with a lot of trauma and mental health, and that's uh, we talk freely about these things between Ted and I, and now on the podcast. So if you're a
Yes.
listener, we talk freely of our real life things here, including our mental health. But one of the things I found fascinating, 77% of fibromyalgia patients also have PTSD. So
That
it's not a definitive, like you're not guaranteed to get PTSD or you're not guaranteed to get fibromyalgia if you have PTSD. And you don't have to have PTSD to get it. Some people don't. But three-quarters of the people, you know what I'm saying? I was like, wow, that's fascinating. So I'm reading that. Highly recommend. Uh, and I always want to caution this. Only read this book if you're in a good mental health space. You know, sometimes I'm guilty of this too. I get excited to read this book because I think it's going to help me, and I don't realize I'm in I'm having trouble regulating emotions or whatever. I'm bipolar, and like sometimes I get into a book and I'm like, ooh, I can't handle this. I guess it's a bad time to read this stuff. So if you're in good middle space, check out the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Uh, Another book I read recently is called Cloud Watching in the Inferno by the Chicago writer Wesley Hine.
oh okay, yeah.
Just recently came out on Roadside Press, who also published my last novel. Wesley Hine is, I think is a one of the best modern writers of realism, of
Okay.
the real grit. Wesley Hyde has an incredible background of being raised in a blue collar environment, graduate of an art school, and then he like made his chops like busking the blues on the streets of Chicago. Around that's a unique voice that I love. So his book Cloud Watching in the Inferno is a selection of short stories, essays, and poems mixed in, and it's his best writing to date. There's one story in there in particular about his early writing days when he got a job as writing for a boxing magazine that was just starting. It's a beautiful story about what it's like being like a young reporter in a world where people don't read newspapers and magazines anymore, you know. And then one more book, and hey, I do have this close by. Look at this. Uh, so one of the things I've been trying to do more of is get back. You know, I as a writer, Ted, or as an artist, I feel like we read the serious books. We read the books we're supposed to read. We read the books that you know what I mean. And I've been trying to make sure I go back and spend some time every month reading shit that's just fun to read. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
My friends' books aren't fun to read, but a lot of the lives we lived aren't fun necessarily. You know, there's some humor in it, but
You gotta have escape, you know?
yeah. Carl Hyacin is a Florida novelist. He's one of my all-time favorite writers. His books are flat out some of the funniest fucking fiction and stories I've ever read in my life. One of his early novels, there's a Miami Vice knockoff detective in the novel. That's his case involves a guy getting stabbed to death by a swordfish that was mouth. You know, it's ridiculous. And there's a recurring current character in his books, uh, whose name is Skink. And I'm not going to give the details away too much, but Skink was once upon a time the governor of Florida, a real life governor in the fictionalized world, that lost his mind and went back to live in nature in the Everglades. And that's all I'm going to tell you. But
Okay.
his character Skink is one of my most delightful favorite characters of any like books I've ever read. So check out Carl Hyacin, and that's all I got. Ted, what have you been reading? Anything good?
Well, a lot of the stuff I've been reading has been on my tablet because I got the Comixology Unlimited pass, so I've been reading a lot of comics. We just saw the Superman movie, and that kind of I've been a Superman fan since I was real little. My grandpa would take me to the newsstand every week to pick up comics and stuff like that. So I've been reading back through that. I am currently reading a series, mini series called uh, oh, totally lost what it was called. DC New Frontier. That's it, and it is done like a Cold War kind of story involving the Justice League and like the plan to get them together to basically save the world from the nuclear threat. And it's really cool. It's got like this like throwback 1940s, 1950s art style by Darwin Cook that I've been a fan of Darwin Cook's for years. They did a lot of the interior or exterior art on Batman the Animated Series, and I just really like their style. It's got like that crime noir vibe. Um, Also, All Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley, who is another artist that I really like. That is like the quintessential Superman story. It goes deep into his lore as Grant Morrison tends to do. Grant Morrison's probably my favorite comics writer. He gets very meta, and he really knows the history of the books in a way that no one else does. It's very encyclopedic, and he goes weird. Like his stuff gets pretty friggin' wild. So reading those, and
Comic book reading is still reading. I don't care what anybody tells you.
yes, absolutely. Like, I think, my grandpa just saw a kid wanting to read stuff. So he was like, damn it, I'm going to get him some comic books. And I did the same thing with my daughter. She got it really into graphic novels and manga. And I, started buying.
I had to give blood today, and my nurse was trying to make sure that I stayed calm. So she was like, just breathe normal. So I started hyperventilating.